Now we turn our focus to San Diego City Hall, where in an extraordinary scene, the mayor of San Diego had the deputy city attorney, the number 2 man in the city attorney's office, Andrew Jones, escorted out of a closed session hearing after accusing Jones of leaking information from past closed sessions. Now, who else was in those closed session meetings? A bunch of elected politicians. Who's best known for leaking things? Elected politicians, not attorneys with ethical obligations. I'm pleased to be joined now by Deputy City Attorney Jones. This is just an extraordinary situation. Mayor Filner is a politician. He knows who leaks information from closed sessions, the people who stand to gain from it politically. And he should know that if you're an attorney with any kind of ethics at all, it's something you would never do. So he has a scenario here under which he jumps to the conclusion that you're the one who's leaking. It just seems on its face outrageous. What was it like in the moment to have this situation with this madman mayor?
You know, it was absolutely shocking. It was something I didn't expect. I was there to conduct business. As you indicated, I'm the number 2 person in the city attorney's office. The city attorney, in fact, was not there at the meeting. And in fact, so that day, I'm the number 1 person in that room when it comes to representing our office. I had not said a word. He attacked me with no provocation. I was in total shock.
Now, we had at least one council member suggest that the mayor was just in a bad mood that day and took it out on you. Well, the mayor has a history of this kind of thing. In 2003, he got into an incident with a border security agent out in the interior California area. In 2007, 2008, I believe it was, he berated a baggage handler at Dulles Air Force Base, or not Dulles, at Dulles Airport. So one way or the other, the mayor has a long history of public anger. So it seems to me to say, oh, it was just a bad day, ignores this history. Was what happened that day consistent but just more extreme with what you've witnessed from Filner, or were you willing to let him get away with it? It was a bad day.
You know, it's one thing to have a bad day. It's another thing to take an unsuspecting police officer who had no clue as to what was happening in that closed session and use the power of the police department to remove me from that office, from that room. It's one thing to have a bad day. It's another thing to use the authority of the mayor's office unlawfully and inappropriately. That's not a bad day. That's a violation of the law, which goes far beyond the pale of anything any decent human being should expect.
Now, I am not a person who is quick to bring race into issues, but the fact is that Filner's whole political career is built on the heroism he showed a half-century ago as a freedom rider. So perhaps it's not anything more than ironic or strange, but it is something notable and noteworthy and worth commenting on that you're one of the highest ranking African Americans in San Diego City Hall, and here you have a mayor who not only kicks you out of private session, he writes a budget that tries to zero out your job. This is just odd.
You know, I'm not the one to bring about race either. I certainly haven't gained my position based on race. And my comment as to that was not that he was being racial toward me. I don't know what he intended. All I can tell you is how it affected me. I'm a product of the South. I grew up in the segregated South, and to say to me to go sit in the back of the room had a certain effect, whether he intended it or not. But I do think it's rather odd that even after he knew I felt that way, because I went public with that statement, that he would again turn around and treat me this way in front of council members, in front of folks who were there just to present on the case, who aren't city employees, other attorneys, other staff. You know, it's one thing to say that he's not doing that. It's another thing when he goes to the next step of having me removed from a lawful meeting by police officers. I don't know what his motivation is, I just know how it affects me.
Now, yesterday, the City Council failed to override Filner's veto of the budget, some of the budget involving the City Attorney's office, which now faces a $500,000 cut. It's my understanding that there will have to be cuts made, but he's not going to succeed in getting you booted out of there. Is that how it looks?
Well, the city attorney makes that decision as to whether I get booted or not. I have no indication at this point that he intends to do that. The mayor doesn't decide what happens in our budget, but the council has spoken. We'll have to decide how we're going to handle that, so we'll see what happens with the budget.
What's really interesting about talking to Filner is once you get past the shock that somebody so persistently abrasive manages to get reelected and reelected and reelected, is his sureness, his surety that he is absolutely in the right on everything. You know, and that's an interesting quality in a politician who normally deal with a lot of gray issues. But with Filner, it translates into, I believe, an I'm above the law kind of quality, where he simply believes that if he does it, his motives are pure and therefore the legalities don't matter. But when you're the elected leader of one of the largest cities in America, they do matter. I assume this is something that City Attorney Goldsmith has conveyed to the mayor and that perhaps you have conveyed to the mayor. What's it going to take for him to acknowledge the fact that there are limits on his power and there are improprieties in places that perhaps he shouldn't go?
You know, I don't know what it's going to take. I tell you, the City Attorney's Office will do whatever it takes to make sure that our office is treated fairly, that the law is followed. So we'll take whatever action we need to do what needs to be done to curtail the mayor's abusive behavior, not only when it comes to our office, but when it comes to any employee or member of the public who's subjected to that type of behavior. We'll do what we have to do to make sure the matter make sure the mayor acts in an appropriate manner.
It seems to me that outrage over Filner's behavior will only crystallize when somebody tapes him taking somebody down. Is it illegal for a city employee to tape an encounter with the mayor essentially as a self-defense mechanism, or is it? I mean, I'm not saying for an attorney, you have different obligations, but say, an average bureaucrat, is he allowed to tape an encounter with the mayor if he feels the mayor is being verbally abusive?
Well, you asked me for a legal opinion. As you know, it's unlawful to tape normally to record someone without their permission. So I'd be very careful about that. Certainly, the closed session is a situation where recording is actually expected. A court reporter is in the room. So if I was going to take Mr. Filner, I'd probably tell him before I did that.
We don't have much time. It seems likely there's going to be some legal challenges to the mayor's solicitation of a $100,000 gift before he allowed a project to proceed. Would the city attorney have to have the strange situation of defending the mayor in this? Because I don't think the city attorney approves of what the mayor done. We don't have much time. No,
I'm not sure. We don't have all the facts yet. So we'll have to make that decision when we get all the facts. If it's appropriate to defend the mayor, we will, depending on what the situation is, so we'll see.
Thank you very much for coming on.